Hello, BookTube. We're continuing at last my 2024 library tour. I'm committed to doing this whole thing. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm committed to it. We are still in the kitchen. We are at bookcase number 4, and the more I look at this, the more I think this is a weird catch-all bookcase that's not going to make any sense at all, and that's really going to have to contribute to the reorganizing that I do out here. I took a pause from this library tour. You're not going to notice that if you do this in a playlist. But I took a pause to reorganize the mass market paperbacks so that all the science fiction and fantasy is together. It's by far the overwhelming majority of what we saw in the last 3 bookcases, and yet it's not all together. But the pause was not to do that. I did not actually do that organizing in the pause, as you can tell, because there are a pile of books on the floor and things haphazardly piled on shelves. So I still need to do that. I think I will do that when I'm completely finished with this room. Which shouldn't take long. So we're going to just start on the bottom here. Glancing at these shelves, I get the strong impression that a lot of the stuff on these shelves belongs elsewhere and will be part of that reorganization that I will do as soon as we're finished. But for this first one, we have My Island Home by James Norman Hall. Now, that obviously does not belong here because I have a biography section where this belongs. He was one half the writing duo of Mutiny on the Bounty, and here he tells a wonderful travel story. These are actually really, as you could tell if you've read Mutiny on the Bounty, he's a really good writer, a really good storyteller, and this book is terrific. I loved it. I'm due for a reread, but it doesn't. I'm going to put it on a separate shelf because it does not belong out here. We'll see how many end up on this separate shelf. This next one's a perfect example. This is Burton Raffles' translation of The Essential Horace, the Roman poet Horace, by the translator that was made famous by his translation of Beowulf. This is a really good selection, but I have a bookcase for the classics of ancient Greece and Rome. I reorganized a bookcase specifically for that. We'll get to it in about a year. We will reach that bookcase. So that doesn't belong out here. Okay, then we have A Boy's Own Story, Edmund White's claim to fame, his gigantic introduction to the literary world. It's terrific. It's heavily autofiction, but it's terrific. But the top shelf of that bookcase back there, that bookcase is all romance. Double and triple stacked romance. And at the top of that bookcase, between those 2 towers of books, are novels about the gays. And this belongs there. So, just another one that goes on this other shelf here. Okay, then we have a movie, an HBO film adaptation. They did an adaptation of Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451. It didn't take off. I don't think it was all that popular, but they brought out a book for it. They brought out a book version with the adaptation cover that I kind of sort of like. So I liked it, and I'm glad to have it, but it's going to be with science fiction. I'm going to make a whole bookcase of science fiction. All my science fiction is going to be out here in one place, which means taking everything off the wall and putting all the science fiction and fantasy onto one bookcase and just seeing how crowded that ends up being. Let's see here. Oh, okay. Here we have Hervé Lacorre. This is translated literature. This is translated from the French by Sam Taylor. It is after the war. This was really, really good. It's a big, thick thing, but it was really, really good from the folks at Europa Editions. I got it as in a used book foray during Michael K. Vaughan's visit here months and months and months ago, and read it in one gulp. It's a long book, but I read it in one gulp. I thought it was just incredibly good. Some passages, they're still ringing in my mind. So very glad to have found this, and it, I guess, does not need to be relocated because it's not specifically something else. Okay, here's another Europa editions. This is also translated. Yeah, translated from the French by Alison Anderson. This is A Novel Bookstore. Largely cutesy-poo novel about a bookstore, about the wonders of a bookstore and the connections that are made therein. Okay, then we have a paperback of Jamie O'Neill's At Swim, Two Boys. This is a great novel. It's a great Irish novel. It's also a great gay novel. So it belongs over there. It belongs with the gays. So I have it as a trade paperback. I've had this book in every version and imaginable. Oh my God. Gigantic UK hardcovers, gigantic American hardcovers, UK trade paperbacks, American trade paperbacks. The only thing I've never seen is a mass market paperback of this book. I'm not sure that it ever came out in mass market in the UK. Never did in America. But not that it matters. I have it. I don't need any other versions. Okay, then we have John Nixon's book, Debriefing the President. The president here being Saddam Hussein. This was a series of conversations that Nixon had with Saddam Hussein before he was scooped up by the massive bureaucracy of American law enforcement. There's a one window of time after he was captured and cleaned up and deloused and whatnot, but before he was taken into official custody. So very much like, the author never explicitly draws the connection, but it's very much like that final confrontation, that final conversation between Clarice Starling and Hannibal Lecter in the movie version of Silence of the Lambs. It's very much like that moment where the intrepid analyst is trying to get as much information out of this free-talking lunatic as he can before the lunatic is taken away from him. I reviewed this. I don't think I'm blurbed on this edition. But I reviewed it, and I am blurbed on this, yes, for the Christian Science Monitor, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I don't know what it is. If I'm going to leave fiction on here, then this does not belong here. What is this next one? Oh, right, okay, this is a BookTube book. Very much so. This is Misread, a Misread omnibus. That I, of course, got because of Genius Stanier, but I ended up liking these books. I told myself I would just read Village School, just that and nothing else in this trilogy. These are Fairacre books, which is one of the two franchises that this author did. And I thought I would just read that one. I ended up reading the whole thing because they were much better than I remembered. These novels are much better than I remembered. And underneath their cozy gentility, they're a little sharp. They're sharper than I remembered as well. Then we have Kenneth Myrick's book, Sir Philip Sidney as a Literary Craftsman. Again, I said this was a catch-all of a bookcase. This is terrific, though. And not just about Sir Philip Sidney as a literary craftsman, but also about Sir Philip Sidney. For my money, this comes close to being the best biography of Sidney. But it's tremendous, also tremendously eloquent and playful. Okay, what on earth? Okay, this is by Angelique Jourde, and this is called The Beach House. A little novella, novella, obviously, about the gays. So this also does not belong here. There's a shelf over there. That shelf's clearly going to get bigger with the addition of all these things. Okay. A little unwanted sub-theme is developing here, and that is translations from the French. This is also a translation from the French by William Rodamore. This is Nicolas Mathieu's book, and Their Children After Them. A strange, grubby, modern novel that if you get this out of the library, or if you have a copy and you read it, and you're a viewer of this channel, and you finish it, and somebody asks you, would Steve like that book? You would say no, he absolutely would not like that book at all, and yet I did. And I acknowledge that I shouldn't. I just did anyway. What is this next one? Okay, all right, this is by George Sargent. This is A Busted Bibliophile. Tiny little thing about wanting all the expensive collectible books and not being able to afford them. Obviously, I have a whole section about the life of books, prefaces, essays, reviews. So it belongs there, not here. Okay, then we have historical fiction. This is David Wishart. This is his book, I, Virgil. He did a whole bunch of Roman historical murder mysteries that are terrific. This is a little bit off that beaten path. This is much more of a straightforward Roman historical novel about the Roman poet Virgil. It's very, very good. I don't know, I guess I'll leave it here for now because I don't know what I would do with it otherwise. But here we have more historical fiction. This is 3 by Janet Workman. So we have Jane the Queen, The Path to Somerset, and The Boy King. Underneath this banner here, that is King Edward. This is about the Seymour family. It's a trilogy of Tudor historical fiction about the Seymour family, who risked everything and flew as close to the sun as you could get. They had one member of their family was queen, and the mother of the heir. That was astonishing. No, the Howard family couldn't do that. So it ends up being a terrific story. And there are a whole bunch, no matter where you've encountered the Seymour family, whether you just know Jane Seymour, the sister and the daughter who became the queen, or whether maybe you're familiar with the brothers from the reign of Little King Edward, you still know that the whole family is full of gigantic personalities. But it's through that device that Janet Wortman brings in the whole of the Tudor era. It works really, really well. Oh, great. Okay, this is Richard Kluger's historical novel, The Sheriff of Nottingham. Obviously, from the title and from the cover design on this Penguin trade paperback, you know that Robin Hood, this is the story of Robin Hood and the Sheriff of Nottingham and whatnot, and evil King John. But this turns that whole world on its head and gives you the character of the Sheriff of Nottingham. He is very much the hero of the book. Robin Hood barely appears in the book, and John is very much the villain. This is so incredible. Such amazing historical fiction. No idea if what its current state is. Is it still in print, or is there an edition available? But oh my, if you can find it at a used bookstore or a yard sale or something, grab it. It's fantastic. You're going to look at it, you might look at it and think, okay, I know what this is, because I've read a million adaptations of the Robin Hood story. No, you're not getting that here. Not at all. Okay, then we have Picador Press. This is Eric Newby. A book of traveler's tales, just a big anthology of travel writing pulled from all kinds of different venues, all kinds of different vantage points, for comedy, for tragedy. I love big anthologies of travel writing because in my time I was a very big traveler, and I'm not anymore. So the only way I'm ever going to experience or re-experience these things is through travel writing. Okay, then we have a paperback of Anno Dracula. We've seen this before, so there's a double out here in this kitchen somewhere. This is Kim Newman's novel, a great, great novel about Victorian England swarming with vampires, including the prince of vampires, including Dracula himself. Just wonderful. It does so much more than it needs to with that simple premise that you will just be caught up in all of the... it's a world. And Newman eventually came to realize that because he kept writing books in that world. There are now a number of Anno Dracula books. Then the end of this shelf is more historical fiction. This is Kate Atkinson's Life After Life. Her novel about a woman who is constantly reborn with just living over and over again in the world. And all that would do to you, but also all that you would experience, and eventually the desire develops in her to maybe do something with that, maybe do some good in the world, since you know what's coming. Maybe do some good in the world. I really enjoyed it. I am blurbed on this as well. Who did I review this for? The Washington Post. And I'm due for a reread. I'm not sure how much this trade paperback would take a reread, but I'm due for one. Now, we're at the 13-minute mark. We're going to try and get another shelf done. There are only 4 shelves here. There are no double-stack mass-market paperbacks or anything like that. And the reason why I think we can do it is because virtually the whole of the next shelf is a block, and blocks make this really easy. So let's do the one book that is not. The one book that is not a block is A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles that I found. I think I found this at a little free library. Gave it a reread. And that was when the pennies finally dropped from my eyes, and I realized this is an author who really, really repays rereading. You read his books first, and you think, okay, got it, and you don't. You don't. He really repays rereading. I've learned that with this book, and now I'm just waiting to find copies of everything else, especially the latest one, not the one before the one that revisits Rules of Civility. The one before that, I would like to find. I had a hardcover copy of it. I got rid of it. But that's the only book on this shelf that is just a standalone book on its own. All the others are a type. And it makes me think that I have one of these, more of these to fill out this whole shelf. But the type is Otto Penzler's big books for Black Lizard Crime. Otto Penzler did a whole bunch of the big book of so-and-so or such and such, and he's wonderful. Otto Penzler is a great editor. He's read everything. He knows where it all is. He remembers a little thing here or there that's not all that well known that he wants to show to you, and he had a whole string of these big books, and they did really well. This is what I'm talking about, the big book of adventure stories, for instance. They are oversized and floppy. They are wider than a normal hardcover. We line this up like that. See, they go an inch further. They have doubled columns, So you get an enormous amount in these books. The big book of adventure stories, for instance, contains a whole Tarzan novel. In addition to everything else, there's tons and tons of stuff in this book. And Otto Penzler is so good at it that I end up keeping almost everything of these. Like, for instance, the big book of female detectives. Huge thing. This stresses out at, over 1,000 pages, but it's twice that because it's double column. And it will include a lot of authors you've never heard of. We have the big book of ghost stories. Same thing, over 1,000 pages, just fantastic. You can lose yourself in these books. That's what makes them so wonderful. We have the big book of espionage, unfortunately with an ugly cover. This is the only big book that has an ugly cover. You've got this floppy design here, lots and lots of well-known names in there, but also not. Lots and lots that aren't. Then we have the big book of Jack the Ripper. That I just love this thing. Absolutely love it. It's in a bad location now. This bookcase it's weird. It shouldn't be here. It's in a narrow aisle with no lighting. It's not easy to look at what's on here. But the books are good. We have this is the one that really kicked it off. This is the Black Lizard Big Book of the Pulps. Full of wonderful stuff, including this book, probably more than any other. Absolutely full of authors you've never heard of. And that's Otto Penzler, and he's done others too. I think he did at least 2 volumes of Christmas stories. I don't have those volumes. But here's another. The big books exist without him as well. This is the big book of Cyberpunk, edited by Jared Shurin. I enjoyed this a lot. I found a lot of stuff in here that I didn't know about. And a lot of stuff that was set off to good examples. Then when we're in science fiction, we also have the big book of science fiction, edited by Anne and Jeff Vandermeer. This one I had to reinforce because I have gone to this so many times. This is such a great anthology. There's also a big book of the weird and also a couple of volumes of fantasy stories in this series. I don't have any of those. And they are also great. I'm just waiting to find them, that's all. Then we have something this is not a big book, but it is one. I mean, it's Otto Penzler, and it's the same thing, big and floppy, with the double column pages. It's just not called that. The branding didn't exist then. This is the Vampire Archives. And it's absolutely wonderful. New and old vampire stories all throughout. Just amazing. Like I'm saying, you can lose yourself in these books. Then a couple of hardcovers. I have the hardcover Otto Penzler collection of bibliomysteries. So murder mysteries set around books. Catnip to readers like us. Absolute catnip. Some of these are famous. A couple of them are among the most famous mystery short stories of them all. But the thing you get with Otto Penzler is a lot of stuff that isn't famous. A lot of stuff that he knows because he's been prowling these magazines forever, but you don't know. And then there's this one, the big book of Sherlock Holmes stories, that I have for some reason in hardcover. I think that I would probably swap this out for a paperback. I like the big floppy paperbacks. I'd probably swap this out for a paperback if I saw a paperback of it. But the hardcover is really nice. You know, the built-in bookmark and whatnot. It's solidly made and full of Holmes, including a couple of Holmes stories. Is that right? There's Vincent Starrett, Stephen King, Stephen Leacock, Kingsley Amis, A.A. Milne, P.G. Wodehouse. But what about there are also Holmesiana done by Arthur Conan Doyle. But what about actual Sherlock Holmes stories? Or did he maybe not put those in here because they're so familiar? Maybe he didn't. Michael Moorcock, June Thompson, Tanith Lee, Aunt Perry, Stuart Comiskey, Manly Wade Wellman. No. Okay, so the only contributions in here by Arthur Conan Doyle are The Field Bazaar and How Watson Learned the Trick. Still a great book. Still fantastic. And I was right. We are at the 20-minute mark, and that's 2 whole shelves done. Because the second shelf was all of these big books minus 1. Considering that I have big books there are big books out there that I want and don't have, I should get another one to finish this shelf. But anyway, that is it for this installment. That is shelf number 1 and number 2, no subsections, of bookcase number 4, which leaves us with only 2 shelves left to finish bookcase number 4 and finish the kitchen. And then there will be a long delay in this library tour while I reorganize all those paperbacks. I think I know when I want to do that. But that's it for now. Pretty interesting. I need to repatriate a lot of these things, so I'll do that now as soon as I can feel my lower extremities again. And I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.